The big Earl is always asking, why is China hoarding food? Experts say that China is hoarding a massive amount of food. They will soon have over two-thirds of the globe's corn reserves, over half of its rice, and over half of its wheat. But when asked about it, China lies. One China expert says they, of course, will never admit to something like that. Well, what does China know that we don't? When it comes to global food shortages, China is the canary in the coal mine. You see, China is the world's number one food importer. They rely on the rest of the world to keep their people fed, so they can't afford to mess up, or there will be riots, civil panic, or even worse, when over a billion people can't eat. What does this mean for Americans like you and me? Two words: food shortages. That's why it's a smart idea to stock up on a kit of best selling For Patriots survival food. Create your own stockpile of the best selling For Patriots survival food kits, hand packed in the USA. The kits are compact and stack easily. They have different delicious breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, and their 5-star reviews on the website rave about the flavor and the taste. Right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase of For Patriots survival food by typing in the code VTTGW at checkout. Just go to forpatriots.com and use the code VTTGW to get 10% off your first purchase of For Patriots survival food. That's forpatriots.com. Use the code VTTGW.
Hey, what's up, Mental Health Nation? It's Wednesday. Hope everybody's having a great day. It's Cliff and Lynn here today. We're super excited to be back. I've been out of town. I'm back in town. But real quick with what played on before, you never know when a natural disaster is going to happen. I grew up in the Midwest, Tornado Alley. It's always good to be prepared, and that is just a great thing to have in your home, so it's there and ready for when you need it. Because you never know when you are going to need it. Because in Missouri, we grew up with tornadoes, winter's coming on. We always had ice storms there, and it was always something going on. But hey, listen, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Just remember that if you missed the podcast today, or if you want to re-listen to it while you're driving in your car, it's super easy to do. You just go to Reads Across America Radio and you search for Read, and then you can find it, and you just download your favorite app, whatever you listen to music on. We are on the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, and the Odyssey app. And with that, I'm going to say, Lynn, how are you doing today?
Hey, what's up, everybody? I also wanted to chime in on that disaster planning, especially living in the Gulf, or I mean, I don't live in the Gulf Coast anymore, in Florida. Well, the Gulf Coast is in Florida,
Yeah,
but
that's right.
in Florida, I'm on the East Coast, and hurricane planning for
Yeah.
sure. Definitely important there. I want to say, hey, I'm glad to be back. You've been traveling, I've been traveling. I just came back from Fort Walton Beach, and we had a great Irreverent Warriors hike there. There was a good turnout, and it was a lot of fun. But as I mentioned before, once you do these veteran activities, you have that high of being around people, of
Mhm.
your people, and then you come down from it. So then you
Yeah.
have the post hike blues, and it's like, oh no, when's the next one? Like, when is the next time I'm going to be able to hang out with my brothers and sisters? And I'm glad that it's coming up soon, which is not the Marine Corps birthday. I mean, the Marine Corps birthday is coming up, but it's after the Marine Corps birthday, which is November 18th in Tampa. So I'm excited about that.
And
And
and and for people who want to know more about Reverend Warriors, what do they go to? You got the website? Can you type it in the message so everybody knows can go to it?
yeah, it's www.irreverentwarriors.com, and we're in over 150 plus cities, international. I guarantee that there's a hike near you or an event near you. So just go ahead and type that into the website, and you'll see everything about us.
Not to go back on the four patriots that I was talking about, to always being prepared. But one thing, remember, and I didn't realize this. So of course I talked about being in tornadoes, and of course ice storms can be a long drag out thing. But when I moved out to the East Coast and I experienced my first hurricane, those can go on for days and hours. And a tornado usually when it destroys a bunch of stuff and then goes away in a short amount of time. Sometimes with hurricanes, they can linger around for days and just wreak havoc. Something I saw with Sandy and some other things, especially nor'easters. Just so you just never know, and it's always better to be prepared. Everything's a transition. We're in a transition time. This is something that I wanted to talk about in today's podcast because It's something that affects everybody, right, Lynn? It's a change of the seasons, and they call that what's that called? I just drew a blank. What's
Okay,
that?
so I just Googled it and it's called seasonal anxiety disorder, SAD,
Okay.
SAD.
Yeah.
It's a complicated disorder where a person tends to experience more anxiety during certain months. Usually it's the winter months, colder months, but there are some people that seem to experience SAD during the summer months. So that's interesting to know. It's a drop in serotonin, a brain chemical, a neurotransmitter that affects mood, might and it might play a role in. Reduced sunlight can cause a drop in serotonin and trigger depression, and melatonin levels also drop. So the change in season can disrupt the balance of the body's level of melatonin and serotonin.
My older
Yes.
brother suffers from that, and he actually has a tanning bed in his home, and in the winter months he'll lay in it, and I guess that helps with his seasonal depression, or try to get out in the short amount of time that there's sun. But hey, Big
Wait,
Earl says out there, the Superstorm Sandy and Clifford Bombing have in common. Okay, what is that? What do we have in common with Superstorm Sandy and me? Other than it was coming towards my house and I Chuck Norrised it and it went to the right. So Sandy missed us. But
yeah, it was in the north,
it's
probably.
yeah, it's something that I talk about the ear kick app.
They both blow. Good one.
That was a good one. He's on it today. We should just go ahead and just bring him in live and put him on the spot.
I know, right?
But if you don't understand that, and it's hard to figure it out. And I talk a lot about the ear kick app, the mental health app, because one thing it does, it tracks weather patterns. And so if it's free to download, it's just earkick.com. But if enter it like I do mine every day. I journal every day now for about 6, 7 months, and you do that for a year, and you want to wonder why is it October, November I normally feel down. Well, you can go back and look at the temperature. You can look at what the weather pattern was. It cloudy that day or sunny that day, and maybe you have that disorder, seasonal anxiety disorder, and maybe it might be something you want to talk with doctor about because it can be a real thing.
Well,
But
also people who live up north, I always say north of I-10, it gets cold,
yeah,
and then if you see the studies, it says that a lot of people up north are sadder or more depressed than the people in the south or in the hotter climates. And then I think the most happiest people in United States are in Hawaii because it never really gets
yeah,
cold over there.
yes.
And I think that's why a lot of people move to Florida. Like, I'm here in Florida.
Oh, they go winter in Florida. Yeah. For me, one thing I've always done, of course, growing up in Missouri, the weather always changes. It's a constant change. People complain
Mhm.
about that in
You have
Virginia.
4
I always
seasons.
tell everybody in Virginia, go live to Missouri for a year. You'll never complain about Missouri weather or Virginia weather again because it's pretty normal here, pretty stable. But one
Yeah.
thing I do is I think a lot of people try to hang on to the warmer months when you start going through the change of fall and winter. So I'm the guy that wears shorts year round, and I just get used to the colder temperatures. I force myself to. So I'll go outside at night and I'll walk in shorts and a t-shirt barefooted when it's 40 degrees outside, when it starts being in the 40s, to slowly get my body used to the colder weather. So when it is cold, I'm not cold. And that's something I've always done because, especially growing up in Missouri, you just never knew what temperature was. So I'll just wear whatever I like wearing, which is shorts and flip flops. And it can be 25 degrees outside, and, I'll go out and
Mm-mm.
run in shorts and a t-shirt and it won't bother me.
I could never. That's why I moved to Florida for the warm. That reminds me of a funny story. I was going to a Halloween party. Happy belated Halloween, by the way,
Oh yeah.
to
Happy
everyone
Halloween. I hope everybody had
who
a good, safe
celebrates it,
time.
and happy Day of the Dead today. I hope you
Mhm.
remember all your loved ones. But I was going to a Halloween party on Saturday, and our Uber driver was from Brooklyn. And I
Oh,
was telling her about the weather change, how it was getting cold, and I was wearing a coat. And the other day at Walmart, like walking around, and she goes, "Well, what was the temperature?" I said it was about 68, 70, and she starts laughing. She's like, "No way. It's funny cuz us people from the north, we're wearing shorts and flip-flops." And I'm like, "But that's y'all. That's
yeah.
not us over here."
You're crazy.
Like, yeah, and that's how you can always tell we call them the snowbirds.
Yeah.
So the snowbirds come down from the north down here to, the south area, mostly Florida, and they're all wearing like flip flops and shorts, and then everyone else here is wearing boots
Oh,
and
bundled up.
coats. And I was just complaining that it's cold right now in Florida. It's 64 degrees, so I don't even have any air on, or I didn't turn on the air in my car at all. So,
So that means your electricity bill goes down a little bit.
oh yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It does. But
So
then once it gets to a certain point, it gets too cold, below 60s, then that's when I'll turn my heat on.
so let me ask for somebody who doesn't live in Florida, never been to, well, I've been to Florida, but I haven't lived there.
Mhm.
Do you have a gas furnace or electric furnace? Do you know?
What?
Huh?
No, I don't. A
Oh, okay.
furnace?
I was just kind of curious.
Wait, what's a
For the
what?
heater for your house, to heat your house when it gets cold.
Oh, okay. So, it just depends. I have electric.
Okay.
So, yeah, because I remember when I was living in Oklahoma, it was gas,
Yeah.
but I
You
have
would want that.
electric here, and then I can opt to have gas, but
Oh, okay.
my community development, they just made it gas. So, I mean, not gas, electric. I'm
Made
sorry.
electric. Because I know
Yeah,
here
yeah.
in Virginia at my house, we have
Mhm.
an ensuite. And of course, the ensuite has a heat pump, which is electric, and then the main part of the house is gas. One thing about heat pumps is once it gets below, I think 38 degrees or something, they're not very efficient because the ground gets too cold.
Yeah.
And then they switch over to emergency heat, which is just like two electric, heaters in there, and it's very expensive to run. They use a lot of electricity. So anyway, we went off on a tangent like that, but you know, but it's very important. And oh, by the way, with change of the seasons, make sure you change your filters in your house. Make sure if you don't do that yourself, you call your heating and air guy to go ahead and get your furnace cleaned up and ready for the season. Of course, I do it myself, but that's very important to do because you're going to be inside more and you want that air cleaner. And so it's very important to get those filter changed and get that air, good quality air in your house. Luckily, in my house, every 30 minutes the air changes out. So fresh air comes into the house every 30 minutes. We have a fresh air
Nice.
system. Now, that's nice, except for in the wintertime, it doesn't go through the furnace to warm the air up before it comes in the house. So I'll be sitting here in the office, and all of a sudden I get a whoosh of cold air blowing on my legs because because the fresh air system kicked on. But it's fine. It's okay.
I had my doors open today just to keep to get fresh air
Nice.
and to not run the AC. So
Yeah.
I guess that's what we do in Florida. We just keep
Yeah.
the door open.
That's what you do in the fall.
Hopefully, it's like screened in also because we still have bugs. So there's that
Um,
problem still.
yeah,
It's not
the
cold enough to kill
mosquitoes
the
in
bugs yet.
Virginia went back to hell when it gets cold outside, so we don't have any
Yeah.
bugs anymore. So
Last night I was getting bit. I had my two tiki torches lit, and then it was humid last night for Halloween while the kids were trick or treating around, and I was passing out candy, and I actually passed out like little Debbie snacks and then chips, and then I also passed out for the adults Jello shots and seltzers.
there you
I was
go.
like 21 and up, you go on this side, and then kids go on this side. But yeah, I was getting bit by mosquitoes, and I was like, it's Halloween.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, you
Yeah.
know what? I normally decorate my house for Halloween. It's one of the most decorated, but of course this year I didn't because everybody's in Italy right now because we're working on our transition to Italy,
Hmm.
and I'll get more into that here in a second. So yeah, yesterday was kind of sober for me. And I just drove into Missouri. I was kind of tired, but I didn't have any lights on. I didn't hand out candy or nothing. And usually I'm the person that has the table, the scary Halloween music playing,
Hmm.
with all the decorations up. And usually I'd be taking it down and then be moving into all my Christmas decorations. So this year's a little bit different for me. It's kind of a little bit depressing. It's for all you listeners out there who don't know what I'm talking about. My family is transitioning to Naples, Italy. My wife and younger son are already over there. They left for September, so they've just now got settled into their apartment up there. And I'm here in Virginia, taking care of the rest of the stuff with the PCS move because it's a lot when you transition to
It is.
not only when you move to another house or to another state, when you transition to another country.
Internationally. Right.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Now,
it's a
how
lot of
many
stuff.
moves have you done so far? What move number is this?
For us,
Hmm.
let me count. I haven't moved as much as she has. So for me, it's because of course, I worked at National Guard Bureau in DC, so I didn't move a whole lot in and down south. So
Hmm.
I did 1, 2, 3, 4. She's done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is her seventh one.
Yeah, that's a lot to manage.
Yeah. Well, and then she
Mhm.
was in Rhode Island, so she wasn't even in Virginia. So we had to move her apartment, schedule for
Oh,
her
that's
apartment
right.
to go to
Mhm.
Italy, and then also the stuff that we're taking here in the house in Virginia. So it was a lot to kind of coordinate that, and then of course, you have to coordinate getting your government passports, and then get your visa to obviously live in Italy for 3 years, and of course, her being in Rhode Island meant that we had to do some paperwork in Rhode Island and then some paperwork down here at Fort Belvoir. And so it was just a lot. And of course, for all you don't know, sadly, I have to sell my truck, which I've always sold it.
I'm
Sadly,
sad.
I know I was really
It's not
sad.
even my truck, and I'm sad.
I know, right? That was
I'm like,
hard.
"That's my truck."
But the dealership gave me a very good deal on it, and I can just do it again when I come back. And of course, I
Mhm.
have to sell the Expedition because the vehicles are too big to be in Italy, and they would just tear them up over there.
Yeah, they have
Um,
little tiny, like, cars in Italy.
yeah, yeah, the little narrow
Super small
streets and
ones.
stuff, and so you
Mhm.
kind of want that, not a big, jacked up four-wheel drive,
I don't think the
red,
the
white, and
streets
blue
are
all
made for
over it.
those. You'd run over all the little cars.
That's right. Gun turret in the back, which I couldn't have my gun on. I mean, I didn't have a gun turret. I mean, yeah, that's it. Because I lost all my guns in a boating accident. But yeah, so that that transition for me, when I sold my truck was very depressing. I was very upset by that because I that was kind of my retirement thing. Of course, you guys know I have
Mhm.
the Mustang, the Green Terror,
Mhm.
and so I'm not selling that, by the way. That's going to go to a buddy of mine's house, and he's a big car guy, so he's going to watch it for me.
Good.
I was going to have Big Earl do it, but he didn't have a big enough, nice enough garage for me to stick it in. So it's got to have painted floors and old heat and air conditioning and a dehumidifier and all that stuff, and so he didn't have that. So
Spoiled car.
I know, but that's tough. And so if you're a person out there and you have maybe seasonal affective disorder, anxiety disorder, and then you're having other changes on top of it, you know, um, it can be very depressing, very hard to get through. So what did I do um, to try to combat that? Right, combat my mind.
Mhm.
Like if you listen to my mental health minute today, I went out and ran today. It's very windy, and of course I'm in my shorts and shirt. And when I was running for my first mile and a half, is about 25, 35 mile an hour headwind at 35 degrees. And so while I was running, my body kept saying, you're just tired. You need to quit running. Maybe you can walk. All these things are running through my mind.
Right.
And, and I said in the mental health minute is my mind throughout my life has kept me from being successful in some points in time in my life. My mind in my life has kept me from being happy. And my mind in my life has affected my life in ways that it never should have, right? Because your mind is the only thing you can control.
Mhm.
And so what I told myself, I'm not going to listen to my mind, and I'm just going to keep running. And I just put my head down and just kept going. The good thing is, and I said this on the minute, once I turned around, now the wind's behind me. So now I'm getting pushed by the wind. It's not so cold. And so it's great. And so, one thing I did about the truck is, I just told myself, I can rebuild the truck when I come back. Maybe I can order, a different type of model. Maybe there'd be something else, better out there for me to get. It's replaceable, right? Cars are
Yeah.
replaceable.
Yeah, it's materialistic
The
things.
truck's easy to replace. The
Mhm.
Expedition's easy to replace. The Mustang isn't, because if I sold the Mustang and I rebuilt the Mustang again, it cost me $200,000, and I had just
Right.
several years, and I just don't want to do that. And so I just try to look at the little positives in things because there's always little positives. And if you're, transitioning through, work, or maybe you're moving like I am, or maybe you're just having to some financial issues and you got to downsize, maybe get a different type of vehicle. I've been through that in my life. You just know that those little changes you make now may be very hard,
Well, I
but in
kinda
the long run, they become positive, right?
Yeah, I kind of look at it as like you're mourning the loss of your previous life, or you're grieving because
Yeah.
now this is
Yeah.
what I'm used to. This is my routine. This is my life. I'm used to this. This is what I like to do. Now you don't know what's going to happen. Now it's like, okay, there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of what ifs, and a lot of planning.
Hmm.
And now you have to grieve your previous life where everything was just coasting and it
Yeah.
was easy because
Yeah.
you're used to it. And now you have to get used to the change. And that's hard. That's difficult, and doing it, what, 7 times,
Yeah.
you kind of become like an expert in doing that, which
Yeah.
sucks. Right. And then I think the big challenge for it is for the kids.
Yeah.
And I know like my daughter, she's 10 turning 11, and she's lived in like 6 different states already.
Yeah.
And so it's really difficult for her when she was moving. And this last time we moved, and I don't know if I talked about it on this show, but I talked about it on our previous shows.
Yeah.
She begged me. She's like, "Please, mom, I don't want to move anymore," because she would
Yeah.
cry because she's missing her friends. She's grieving. She's grieving like her friends and like missing them and making new friends. And so now I see that in her, that she hasn't like found her niche yet. She hasn't found her groove because she
Yeah.
hasn't really made like great friends. Maybe it's because of the past trauma of moving all the time. She's traumatized of leaving people, but I think it's really hard for the kids. And so for as adults, we kind of try to help facilitate that, you
Yeah.
know. So I
And
don't know. What do you do? Is this your is Lloyd, you said?
yeah, Lloyd, he's 9. This is
His
his
first
first.
move?
This is his first move. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
Mhm.
living in Virginia, Northern Virginia, now Junior's moved,
Yeah.
but Lloyd hasn't moved as much as Junior. So of course Junior's 10 years older. So this was Lloyd's big move, and plus, Mom's been gone for almost 3 years, so it's been Dad,
Mhm.
and of course Dad is like a kid, so we were always doing stuff,
Mhm.
right? We always had something going on. Go outside, play with the kids. We go take trips. We were doing a lot of stuff together because
Keeping
that's just
yourself
how I
busy.
am. Yeah, I'm just an active
Mhm.
person. Well, Mom, not so much because she was alone in Rhode Island, and of course she didn't do a whole lot on the weekends. And I'm always been the cook of the house, right?
Yeah.
And so now she's had to throw into the role of cook, along with her new job, obviously, which is stressful, being a newly promoted captain and now working in a four-star admiral, um, staff. I've worked in 3-star and 4-star generals before in the army, and I know that's very stressful, especially if you've never done it before. It's a huge
Right.
learning curve. And now with not having furniture and with loaner furniture and just not feeling like you're comfortable in your home yet, has been really stressful on them. They're
Yeah.
slowly figuring it out. Plus, they had to rebuild their relationship, and so
Mhm. Mhm. Yep.
Mom hasn't been around 24/7, and she's not quite as active as Dad. But now Lloyd's getting friends now, and he goes to friends' house, and of course he's on Naples on the base there, so he can walk himself to school and things like that. So things are getting better, but it was very stressful for him for about a month.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it's
Just to get
definitely a
used to it.
learning curve. That's one of the unfortunate side effects of being in the military, right? Being in the
Mhm.
military spouse or active duty still, it's things that we have to relearn. And
Yeah.
so I just went through that similar thing, right? My husband is stationed in Virginia, and when we were together, and I make this joke all the time, I taught him how to cook. And so
Mhm.
I taught him how to cook so I don't have to cook. Right? But now he lives in Virginia, and we call that geographical
Mhm.
bachelor, because we don't live in the same geographical area.
Right.
So he lives in Virginia, and now I had to relearn how to cook. And he was very active with the kids, and he's a fun person. And so yeah, and then I had to take on that role, that he used to do. But it's definitely a big transition, and you just got to roll with it, you know.
Well, and sorry, I had the podcast
No,
playing in
it's
my
okay.
my hearing aids while it was going on
Mhm.
live, so it was confusing me for a second. It is tough, and it's for us now. We've been together. Oh, let me think here. 17 years, but we lived in separate houses for 9 of it.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and
I
it's
can
just
definitely relate to
just
that.
the nature of being in 2 separate services, and it is what it is.
A lot of
Um,
people also say, they're like, "Wow, how do you do that?" I'm like, "Well, I just do." Like,
yeah.
my aunt's done it, my mother's done it. I've come from a
Mhm.
military family, military background. I was in the Navy. My husband's still active duty Navy, and so people are like, "Wow, you guys are so strong. How do you do a long distance marriage?" I'm like, "We just do."
Yeah.
Like, you just do it. Like, if that's your person and that's your life partner, like, you just do it. I don't really like have any other words to say, but that.
Well, you just don't think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
and one thing when we are together, if I decide I want to go and do something for the weekend and she doesn't want to do it, it doesn't bother us.
Right,
All right.
exactly.
Well, like, okay, well, if you want to stay home and because you had a stressful week, right? Because I'm retired, so I just, do yoga, run, lift weights, and my podcast and whatever else. But we're okay with that. It doesn't bother us. or if she wants to go on vacation with her friends, we're like, okay, well, go on
Yeah, it's
vacation.
not a
It
big
doesn't
fuss.
bother us because that's how we lived for so long.
It's just
And
so
so,
strange to me that people are like, "Oh, I mean, it's nothing wrong with it." They're like, "Oh, I have to check in with my partner and see what they're doing." Like, no, if like for me, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it. I want to hang out
yeah.
with my friends. I want to go travel somewhere. I'm going to do it. Like,
Mhm.
and if my partner wants to join, cool. Or if my partner had something um planned in advance, hopefully he told me in advance. If not, I've already had plans.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, especially even with friends, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes friends, they make plans and stuff, and you can't make it, or you want to be there with them. And sometimes things just pop up, right? And so we know how that
Right.
is in the military. And so we're just, to us, it's not an issue. I think, like my younger sister, her and her husband, there's no way that both of them would be the same way. There's no way they would ever do that. Oh no, no way, we could never do that. What, go without my husband? What are you talking about? I'm thinking,
Yeah.
because they're around all together. Do what?
Our good friend Megan was saying how she doesn't know how we could do the long distance because her and David were apart for like a week and she went crazy. She's like, "Oh, go crazy."
Hey,
Hi, Megan, if you're listening, and Dave, love you.
yep. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your comments. One thing, for us is we got married in 2009, and then we had a family wedding in 2010. After the wedding in 2010, she flew back to Chicago because we got married in Massachusetts, and I flew back to Virginia. And it wasn't a year
Mhm.
later till we went on a honeymoon down in Trinidad. So it's if our relationship started out being apart because we dated for three
Yeah.
years, and she was in Chicago and I was in Virginia. So it's not living apart that's hard for us; it's living together that's hard for us
Yes.
because we get too used to
Mhm.
our own space,
Your individual
and it's
spaces.
hard to give
Mhm.
that space back up again. And so that
Yeah.
that'll be another transition once I get over to Italy. To be in a smaller place because now we're in an apartment in Italy, right? We're not in our house, and B, not just having that. But I'm lucky enough that everybody go to work and school, and I'll have my mornings and afternoons free, so it won't be so it won't be so bad. But it is tough, and I think it's all about balance, right? It's finding balance with your family life, it's
Mhm.
finding balance in your personal life, and it's finding balance that works for you. And the hardest thing for me was knowing it was okay to take time for myself, because
Mhm.
I think some people forget about doing that, taking time for themselves, because it makes them feel guilty. I mean, Lynn, you've lived it. Um,
Yeah,
when you
sure.
come home alone with the kids, it's a lot. When you're cooking, you got soccer practice, you got, get them up for school, you got homework. Your day gets very compacted very quickly, especially when you work.
I mean, even like as a mom, like say I want to go out with my friends or I go out for the I leave for the weekend, like to do these irreverent warrior hikes.
Mhm.
I get that mom guilt still. Like I feel guilty like, "Oh, I should be there with my kids. I should be doing this and that. I should be taking them all kinds of places and everywhere and anything." And nothing for me, you know? And
Yeah.
a lot of like parents feel that way. And I'm a mom and I get that mom guilt all the time. And I have to just remember that it's okay to take time for myself because during the week, Monday through Friday, or actually every single day, I am
Yeah.
a single parent pretty much, you
Yeah.
know? So, yeah, and I'm allowed to have fun. We're allowed to de-stress. We're allowed to go out and party and do all these things, within the law, of course.
Well, of course, yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, when Lloyd was here, there was times that he was the only person I communicated with. If I wasn't doing the
Mhm.
podcast or on the phone talking about other things, he was the only person I communicated, with a day. That's why me going to yoga and starting yoga was good because if anything, it got me out of the house. Not that I'm so much
Mhm.
an introvert, I stay in, but it's just the area I live in. But anyway, and then I got to have, adult conversations, albeit short, but the people I do yoga with, because we talk a little bit before class and we talk a little bit after class, and then everybody goes on their merry way. But just having that little bit of social interaction a day kind of really helped me. And
Oh,
my
yeah.
life coach, that's one thing she told me. She goes, I was doing yoga on Mondays and Fridays, and she's like, "Well, why don't you go Wednesdays?" And of course now I'm addicted and I go
You're right.
4 to 5 days a week. But she didn't know that she got me addicted to yoga. But I guess there's worse things to be addicted to.
Right.
Um,
I mean, there's a website where it tells you ways to minimize the seasonal stress or transitions, things like that. And one of them is to cultivate a mindful attitude, and that's what yoga does. Is it helps you
Mhm.
become mindful, paying attention, turning inward, reconnecting with ourselves and with nature. So it kind of grounds you a little bit, and so having that mindful attitude and being aware of the changes and what you can and cannot control helps a lot, because a lot of times what we worry about and get stressed about is things that we can't control.
Right.
And so if you cannot control it, let go.
And
Take
that,
deep
that was hard
breaths.
for me, especially if you have PTSD. It's hard
Mhm.
to have that mindfulness, and it's hard to let it go. I mean, it's when you sit in yoga class, and for those who've done yoga, for those who haven't, I'll describe it to you. But you're sitting in class and you're going through your different poses, and you're there with your own thoughts, and they're saying you need to relax now or whatever they're talking about. And for me, it took me a long time to shut my brain off. And some days it still doesn't shut off. I lay there and think about crap I got to do after yoga. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because I think by relaxing and not having the other white noise allows me to focus a little bit more on what I need to get done. And then when I leave yoga, I'm a little bit more focused and able to get that stuff done. So I
You're
don't
more
I don't necessarily
centered.
think that's a
Mhm.
bad thing. But just trying to refocus your brain and rethink about things is hard. It's not easy. It takes repetition to do that. And when you have bad days, working through those bad days, once you learn how to do that, it becomes easier and easier.
Yeah, I agree. And especially with the repetition thing, like they say it takes 21 times or 21 days to build a habit.
Hmm.
So definitely yoga definitely helps with that, especially if you do it every day.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, for me, I used to drink every day. I don't drink every
Mhm.
day. It doesn't mean I don't have a drink. And it wasn't for any particular reason other than I just wanted to make a little bit, different change. Now, when I don't drink, I sleep better. I know that for a fact, and other things. But it was just something that I felt that I needed to change, and so I
That's
changed it.
amazing how, not drinking helps you sleep better, because you would think the opposite, right? Because a lot of
Mhm.
people drink at night so that they can go to sleep, and I had that thought also. I used to think that way, "Oh, if I drink at night, then I'll be able to sleep better," but
Yeah.
that complete opposite would happen. I have trouble sleeping, I'll wake up, and I think I've read a study about it is because your body's working really hard to process that alcohol
Mhm.
and those sugars and stuff to going through your body. And yeah, I definitely couldn't get a good night's sleep, but now I'm getting better rest now that I don't drink as much.
And you know what? That becomes addicting, right? So when
Mhm.
you go through, like for me, I never really slept a lot, but when you start having that good restful sleep, you're like, man, do I want to have a drink tonight, or do I want to have messed up sleep? And then I
Yeah.
wind up not having a drink. And one thing I discovered, and Google this, everybody, Google taking raw honey at night before you go to bed, and read about
Mhm.
the health benefits of that. Because what the honey does is it feeds your brain while you're sleeping. And the caveat to that is you cannot drink and take the raw honey at the same time, because the two different type sugars, your body processes them differently, and it'll screw your system up. I know that because I did that by mistake, and I'll never make that mistake again. It screwed me up for about 2 days. But though I get such more restful sleep when I take a teaspoon of honey a night before I go to sleep, and I have really vivid, like, movie type dreams when I take the honey that I don't have when I'm drinking. When I'm drinking,
Mhm.
it's normal PTSD type related dreams I have, and
Yeah.
and on the honey, it's like going out and going to car shows or goofing off with friends, or it's just weird. It's just weird, and it's hard to explain unless you do it. But it's something that I was surprised about, and it's something that that I do. But do not drink alcohol. And it's like, well, alcohol has honey in it.
Mhm.
Well, the problem is when the process of making the alcohol, they take out the good sugars in the honey, and that's why it's different than taking raw honey. So I would just caveat to that. Of course, anything you do, any changes you make physical wise or health wise, please, if you have any pre-existing conditions, please always consult your physician first. We are not medical experts here. We're just two people who's been through a lot and seen a lot and done a lot, and just kind of giving you our helpful hints on, try to make your life a little bit better, and talking about, mental health and stigma and things. And, it's just starting that conversation or having that conversation. And transition times are tough. And it's probably something that I'll talk on and off about here as we go through the winter months. But, you think that fall isn't as rough as a transition time as spring. Springs always see a spike in suicides. And I didn't really understand that for a long time. But then once I dove into it more, it's because everything's new, everything's
Mhm.
blooming new. And if you're stuck in a bad place, that's a lot to take in. Where in the fall, everything's kind of dying and the colors are changing, it kind of goes opaque. Where in the spring, it's different. It's vibrant, you got flowers coming up, you're coming out of the law of winter. And I think that could be why it's maybe, I mean, hell, I don't know. That's just
I don't
how,
know. I know when I was living in Oklahoma, everything was yellow during winter. Like,
yeah.
what happened to all the color was yellow and like gray, and it was just like everything sucked. And then like when spring came around, it was nice and green and vibrant, so that's what I remember from
Yes.
living over there.
Yeah, same in Missouri. I mean, but of course, you get the
Mhm.
trees and they lose their leaves like they are now, and
Right.
everything. But I think that's a hard time. But hey, listen, we're gonna wrap it up here. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank everybody for their comments. There's the QR code up in the corner. Don't forget, you can go out and get my book, The Mental Health Warrior. I will caveat to this: there's a QR code there that if you go to my website, www.cliffordbauman.com, to order my autograph copies, which many of you have, and I want to thank you for that. After I go to Italy, that won't be available, unless you want to pay a
Mhm.
huge shipping fee to have that shipped to you. It probably costs more than the book. So you only have until about December 10th to get your signed autograph copy of The Mental Health Warrior. Until then, after that, they'll be available on Amplify.com, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, wherever you buy your books from. But super grateful to all the support out there and everything. There's also Reads Across America up to the QR code up in the left-hand corner. You can scan that to donate a wreath. The big wreath lane's coming up December 17th. They are short on some wreaths. So if you have the money or the extra money, please donate to that. You can just scan that code and fill it out, and it's just $5 to ensure that veteran, the previous service members, do have that wreath on their grave for the holiday season. So very important what they do, and so
Mhm.
appreciative. Along with that, Reads Across America Radio does replay my podcast at Fridays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m. Super easy to find. You just download the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, or the Odyssey app. You search for Reads Across America Radio, and you just click on follow, and then you can listen to all the great programming. They have lots of great shows out there, along with mine and Lynn's show. And so, really great. And Lynn, tell them about VTT and how they can order T-shirts.
All right, check us out at veterantrashtalk.com. You can order and shop, listen, and look at our groups and look at our about stuff on there. Um, we have our merch up there. One of our very popular ones is "Don't Be a Triggered Pansy,"
Yeah, don't be a trigger pandy. Yeah, yeah.
and then we have that Mental Health Warrior shirt up as well. So veterantrashtalk.com. You can find all our merch and our podcast on there.
And just know that any merch that you buy helps us continue with our mission to
Mhm.
get to 22 a day reduced, and really, bring to light, the veterans out there and the suicide and the mental health, but really knowing it's okay not to be okay some days,
Yes.
because we all have great days, we all have bad days, and it's all okay. With that, everybody have a great evening. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Rock on.
Thanks for watching and listening. And now a word from our sponsor, 4Patriots. In a startling description, the UN food chief warned the world with the words, knocking on famine's door. He called what we're facing a perfect storm of a perfect storm. And he's not alone. Barron's published that a food shortage could be coming, even in the US. Farmers see it too. John Boyd Jr., a fourth generation farmer, told Fox News that we're going to see empty food shelves in the coming months. That's why getting survival food is more important than ever now. Create your own stockpile of the best selling 4Patriots survival food kits. It's not ordinary food. We're talking good for 25 years super survival food, hand packed in a family owned facility in the USA and giving jobs to over 200 Americans. They have different delicious breakfasts, lunches, dinners. You can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. And right now, for the next few days, listeners of the Veteran Trash Talk podcast will get 10% off their first order at 4patriots.com by using the code VTTGW. Go to 4patriots.com and use the code VTTGW to start your stockpile today.